The Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation continues to hover in uncertainty as the organization finds itself caught in a prolonged holding pattern, waiting on one man, Aaron Rodgers. While the idea of Rodgers donning the black and gold uniform once seemed inevitable, it has now begun to feel like an elusive possibility slipping further from reality with each passing week. The former Green Bay Packers and New York Jets quarterback has remained noncommittal about his football future, and as the 2025 NFL season rapidly approaches, the Steelers may be running out of time and patience. Throughout the offseason, Rodgers has not been absent from Pittsburgh's orbit. On the contrary, he's made multiple appearances in the city, visited team facilities, held meetings with key members of the front office and coaching staff, and even went as far as to hold a private throwing session with recently acquired star wide receiver DK Metcalf. Those actions, naturally, fueled speculation that Rodgers' signing was just a matter of formality. The city buzzed. Fans began to imagine what the offense could look like with Rodgers under center, launching deep balls to Metcalf and commanding the offense with the same poise he displayed for over a decade in Green Bay. However, that early optimism has slowly been replaced with anxiety and frustration. Despite the signs and the visits, Rodgers has yet to sign a contract with the Steelers. Weeks have turned into months, and while the quarterback continues to state that he's dealing with personal matters and that no doors are closed, his unwillingness to make a definitive decision has left Pittsburgh in a difficult position. The team has remained respectful, patient, and publicly non-confrontational, but behind the scenes, pressure is mounting. The NFL offseason does not last forever. Training camps are inching closer, roster construction deadlines are tightening, and the Steelers are without a clear starter at the most important position in football. While rookie Will Howard, drafted in the 6th round, shows long-term promise, he is far from being NFL ready. Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson round out the current depth chart, capable backups, but not legitimate Week 1 starters for a team with playoff aspirations. At this point, the Steelers must ask themselves a serious question: how much longer can they afford to wait? That's the question ESPN insider Peter Schrager attempted to answer during a recent appearance on the Pat McAfee Show, introducing a potential pivot that could change everything. According to Schrager, veteran quarterback Kirk Cousins could emerge as a serious trade candidate for the Steelers if Rodgers ultimately declines to sign. I still think Kirk Cousins is a viable trade candidate if Aaron Rodgers doesn't land in Pittsburgh, Schrager said. I would keep an eye on that one. While not as electrifying a name as Rodgers, Cousins brings a very different type of value to the table. Currently under contract with the Atlanta Falcons, Cousins had a roller coaster season in 2024. Coming off a torn Achilles that ended his 2023 campaign in Minnesota, Cousins returned to the field determined to prove he still had something left in the tank. Over the course of 14 games, he threw for 3,508 yards and 18 touchdowns, but also 16 interceptions, turnovers that proved costly and raised questions about whether the injury had taken a toll on his decision-making and mechanics. By the end of the season, Cousins was benched in favor of rookie Michael Penix Jr., the Falcons' first-round pick and clear quarterback of the future. The writing was on the wall. Atlanta's coaching staff and front office are committed to developing Penix, and while they have remained respectful of Cousins publicly, it is evident that they are moving in a different direction. That leaves Cousins in a precarious situation, under contract but without a guaranteed role. For the Steelers, this could present a valuable opportunity. Unlike Rodgers, Cousins is not dragging out his future plans. He wants to play. He wants to start. And perhaps most importantly, he's healthy enough to participate in off-season activities immediately. Cousins may not offer the high-end ceiling that Rodgers does, but he provides something the Steelers desperately need: stability. Cousins is a proven starter, with years of experience running multiple NFL offenses. He's known for his attention to detail, his ability to read defenses, and his command at the line of scrimmage. He has limitations, his mobility has never been a strength, and the Achilles injury only highlighted that, but what he lacks in athleticism, he often makes up for in preparation and poise. Bringing Cousins to Pittsburgh would require negotiation. The Falcons would need to agree on compensation, and depending on how much of his salary they are willing to absorb, the trade could come at a relatively affordable cost. It is unlikely the Steelers would part with anything more than a mid-round pick, given that Cousins' long-term fit in Pittsburgh is uncertain. But the move could give them the security blanket they need while continuing to evaluate and develop Will Howard in the background. There's also the question of how Cousins would fit within the Steelers' current offensive structure. With DK Metcalf on the outside, Pat Freiermuth at tight end, and a backfield that includes rising talent Caleb Johnson, the offense has enough firepower to support a quarterback like Cousins. His style of play, efficient, structured, and timing-based, could mesh well with offensive coordinator Arthur Smith's game plan, which leans heavily on play action and intermediate throws. The key, however, is timing. The Steelers cannot afford to wait indefinitely. If Rodgers does not make a decision soon, Pittsburgh will have no choice but to pivot. At some point, patience becomes a liability. Every week without clarity is a week lost in developing team chemistry, installing the offense, and preparing for week one. Rodgers may be worth the wait, but only up to a certain point. And with training camp approaching, the time to act is now. Cousins may not be the flashiest move, but he is a responsible one. He is healthy, available, and looking for a team that values his experience. Pittsburgh may be that team. And if the Rodgers saga ends without a resolution, or worse, ends in retirement, the Steelers will need to make a decision that prioritizes the stability of their season, not just the allure of a big name. In the meantime, Rodgers remains silent. No announcements. No timelines. Just the continued promise that he's working through it. While the respect for his decision-making process is understandable, the clock continues to tick. The Steelers have waited longer than most teams would, and while their interest in Rodgers hasn't waned, the organizational commitment to winning in 2025 must take precedence. Ultimately, Pittsburgh is approaching a crossroads. One path leads to a high-reward gamble with Aaron Rodgers, a player capable of transforming an offense if healthy and committed. The other leads to Kirk Cousins, a veteran with limitations, but one who could bring immediate leadership, structure, and dependability to a team ready to contend now. Neither option is perfect. But doing nothing is no longer acceptable. The coming days and weeks will be critical. If Rodgers finally decides to sign, the Steelers can celebrate landing a quarterback who has defined the past 2 decades of football. But if not, Pittsburgh must be ready to pivot, and Cousins may very well be the answer waiting in the wings. Time, once a luxury, is now a constraint. And for a franchise built on discipline, resilience, and championships, the decision on who leads them into the next season may be closer than ever. Whether it's Rodgers, Cousins, or someone else, Pittsburgh's next quarterback will determine not just the outcome of their 2025 season, but possibly the shape of the franchise for years to come.